The Paragon of Man, Smoke Pit Fairy Tales Part 3, Chapter 8, Panama. We continued sailing south. Every few days we'd see the ruins of cities. Eventually, it was decided that except for when there was a storm, it was better to stay a few miles away from the coast so we didn't have to look at it anymore. The only times we landed were when we needed food and we were tired of eating fish. We bore it as much as we could, but a man can only eat so much seafood. I'm not completely sure where all we landed, but if I had to guess, I'd say somewhere in the Carolinas, Cuba, and Mexico. All were without significant event or human interaction. For that time, our lives were smooth. Boring, but smooth. After the last few years of turmoil, I'd have thought that boring might be welcome, but being stuck on that ship was starting to take its toll. I don't know how long we'd been at sea. I'd stopped counting the days and weeks. We had left the familiar coastlines and pushed through the Caribbean into open sea and back to the Central American coast until we found Panama. When we got to the canal's mouth, we found the surrounding buildings and ruins. We halted the ship and looked at the canal's mouth.
So how are we gonna do this?
Correa wondered aloud. Oh, push through and make it as we go, I replied.
Aren't there supposed to be, dams or something that hold the water up?
Doc inquired. Fowler answered him.
Yeah, but there's water for a bit. We might as well see how far we can go.
I lit my pipe. I was extremely low on tobacco. I had rationed myself to smoking only once or twice a week, and I only had a few days' worth of it left. Exhaling the smoke, I said, well, realistically, we only got 3 options. Give up and walk, see how far we can get the boat through, then either drag it or find a new boat, or take it as far as we can and then walk or sail all the fucking way around South America. We were silent as we thought about the options. Shall we vote? We unanimously decided to push through the canal. Sailing south, we saw more wrecked buildings. We got to the first gate. Why is this here? Shouldn't it be destroyed like everything else around here?
Hell if I know. Better question. How are we going to get over it?
That is a better question. I stared at the wall coming up from the sea. Whatever we do, we're gonna have to do it multiple times.
Well, we have the time.
Fowler walked up to the helm and addressed us.
All right, so how about we push to the shore, take a look around. We're not gonna figure anything out just sitting here.
We moored the boat and walked up on land. The trees were still standing. Most of them were dead around the canal, but it wasn't far back into the tree line where the jungle started. We spread out through the area. Doc, Fowler, and I walked into a white lighthouse and rummaged through the building.
Anyone speak Spanish?
Doc looked around.
I don't think so.
Well, what about Rhodas? I flipped through the papers I couldn't read.
He's 3rd-generation Brazilian. If he did speak anything, it'd be Portuguese.
We climbed the lighthouse and observed the area. We looked at the canal's gates and the path ahead.
So, are we thinking opening the gates?
I think we're gonna need power supplied to them.
Do you think we could pull them open?
No, that wouldn't work. Those fuckers are locked.
I looked around the water. Well, there's a tugboat over there. Why don't we just switch ships? Fowler thought about the idea for a moment.
That could work, but fuel's gonna be an issue.
Well, in Shetland, we converted our boat to a sailboat. We could do it again here. All we really need to do is find some tools. We can strip our boat and put sails on a tugboat. The 3 of us looked at the tugboat.
Fuck it, why not?
Fowler spat and led us down the stairs back to the ship. When the Marines were gathered back on shore, Fowler presented the idea to the group.
It's gonna be a lot of work, but I think we can do it.
Correa raised his hand with a stern look on his face.
I'm pretty sure the canal's only 50 miles. Why don't we load up what we can on smaller boats and row across the lake and stay the night on the island until we get to the other side, and then do that to something we can find on the other end?
Well, what if there's not another boat to take on the other side?
Then we're still stuck without a boat. Unless we want to pull one out of the water and drag it across the gates.
Yeah, I vote we strip the boat and paddle across the lake. The rest of the Marines also agreed. We split in half. 6 of the men went to search the waters for rafts or rowboats to drag our equipment, and the other 6 of us found tools and started dismantling our boat. We took down the sails, the lines, every pulley, grommet, and screw we need, plus a few more, our nets, food, gear, weapons, and the mast and boom. We waited by the lakeside for the others to return. It was in the early hours of the morning when they rowed up on a pontoon boat.
Heyo.
Fowler greeted them.
Think this should work?
Correa hailed in return and threw Fowler a rope.
It should.
Fowler caught the line and tied the ship to the dock.
It was a couple miles away when we found it. It looks like they used to use it for tours. We had to knock off the engines they had on the back and find oars. It's going to take 6 of us to paddle at a time, but it shouldn't be too bad.
What could really be defined as too bad at this point?
Correa shrugged and shook his head. You guys go ahead and rack out. We'll load up in the morning after breakfast and get moving. When there was light, we put our things in the boat and started paddling across the waters, taking half-hour shifts on the oars. We could hear the animals in the jungle at night, mostly insects, but during the day I could see birds. I wondered where the people went. Then, again, for all I knew, they could be right behind the trees. Maybe they watched us and wondered who we were, too. The transit across probably should have only taken a couple of days, but we didn't have a map or any directions. We didn't get to the gates to the Pacific for a week. We moored the boat by the first gate and hopped onto land. Correa, Doc, Fowler, Ivy, and I walked down to the waterline to look for another ship after the gates. The rest stayed and watched the boat. I kept an eye more inland than on the waters.
So what do you guys think happened here?
Ivy asked. It got bombed.
Yeah, but it wasn't nuked. If it was, there'd be a lot less standing up. Like the dates.
Maybe the Russians try to seize it. I think it'd be better for the Russians if they controlled this than it would be to deny it from everyone.
We kept walking towards the Pacific.
Where'd everyone go?
Home. Or into the jungle to get away from the fight. I'm sure if Russia showed up down here that we responded in force.
I wonder why we haven't seen anything conclusive of a battle.
Who said it had to be right on the canal? All they really needed to do was take the towns on the ends. About 3 miles away from where we left the boat, we saw a destroyer half sunk by a dock. Its hull was blown in half, and its metal was covered in rust and scorch marks. 5-1 was painted in big white letters on its bow. Remains of burnt-down warehouses sat between the docks and the hills. That a good enough sign for you?
That's not what I want to see.
None of us want to see that. But there are some smaller boats over here in the harbor.
Fowler pointed to a civilian dock with a line of ships stretching from rowboats to yachts.
Are we going to explore for a bit or just grab one of these and take her back?
I don't like the feel of this place. Let's just grab one of these and go.
We should at least raid the other boats for supplies. Canned food, fire extinguishers, ropes, sails, and what have you. We didn't find anything of much use in the other boats, but we did find a rather large yacht. It was low to the water, but it still had sails and looked like it was fast. Its hull was painted white and its top was enclosed except for a small deck on the aft. We loaded up, unmoored it, and sailed her back to the gates. We moved the gear from one boat to the other. We still took all the parts from the first boat in case we needed to repair the new one and headed down out of the canal. We passed the sunken destroyer in the harbor.
So, I take it war wasn't just fought in Europe.
Rhodas said.
Guess not.
Few wars have ever been fought in just one place, especially a big one like we had. That was probably fucking fought everywhere.
And we lucked out finding this thing. I was convinced we'd have to build and modify something to sail on.
Yeah, lucky us. I looked up and saw a bridge further down. It had a smooth, round arch at the center, both ends disappearing into the jungle. It's starting to get dark. We better make sure not to hit a stanchion going under that.
Yep.
Correa said from the helm. It might be a good idea to just weigh anchor and stay here for the night. I noted how quickly the light was disappearing.
It shouldn't be too much further to the ocean. We should at least get that far.
Fowler said. Correa concurred. No one else had an opinion on the subject. The yacht closed on the bridge. I thought I heard something above us as we neared. Then, there was a loud metallic thunder, and something fell into the water from the bridge. Its impact wave hit our ship and rocked it sideways. A thick pillar of smoke rose from the water.
What the fuck was that?
I don't fucking know!
I looked up, and out of the water rose a knight. Its beaming red eye stared us down into the water.
Oh, god damn it!
I turned back to Correa.
Fucking go!
I'm fucking trying. Get off my ass.
The knight raised its rifle and fired 3 rounds. None of them hit us, but the shock gave the boat a violent shake. The mech pulled the trigger again, but the rifle clicked empty instead of firing.
Ah, man, fuck this!
I grabbed my weapon and started shooting at its eye. I knew we couldn't defeat the thing, but I thought I might be able to blind it. I fired half a magazine before the mech dropped its rifle in the water and leaned in towards us. The 12 of us were white with fear, but that didn't stop anyone from either sailing properly or firing at the giant metal beast. Correa caught the wind again and sped past the knight's waist. As we swooped by it, it swung its arm at us. It missed hitting the boat, but it managed to grab or blow away a handful of Marines. We didn't have time or the skill to turn back and attempt to rescue them. The mech was crushing their bodies with its hands anyway. There was nothing we could do. We looked back and watched as it killed the men it caught, but we kept sailing into the ocean. I collapsed back into a bulkhead. It felt like my skull was too small and my brain was trying to force its way out.
What the fuck was that about? This far away from Russia and we still have their fucking mechs hunting us down like livestock? Fuck!
My breath was heavy and my heart pounded. I had become the incarnate of rage and sat there impotently.
Doc!
Yeah?
Making sure you're here.
I'm here.
I stood back up.
Well, who else still here?
Fowler, Correa, Ivy, and Williams rogered up.
Great!
I screamed, crossing my arms, then put them on my hips. My head was swirling with anger.
Rhodas, Hill, Gino, Walks, Anderson, and Simon are all gone. That's fan-fucking-tastic.
Everyone else was silent. I realized I had nothing to say they weren't also feeling. I sat down and shut up. We weren't at sea for more than 3 hours before we found an island and landed at its docks. We didn't leave the boat. Too angry to sleep, we sat brooding by the dock until it was light enough to look at the island. More jungle. It looked like we were at a supply dock at the end of a maintenance route up the aisle.
We have to fucking leave.
The Marines looked around scared, expecting another mech or something likewise, intending to do us harm.
It's gonna be too dangerous here. We know for a fact there's at least one mech in the area, and we're not far from it. If there's one, there's two, and if there's two, there's a party. They're still operational and looking for shit.
Ivy spoke up.
Shut the fuck up, dude. We just lost 6 men we've been fighting with for the last couple years. The 6 of us are all that's left of 7th Marines. We're a little heartbroken right now, all right? We're tired and we need to fucking rest. We've been at sea forever. We're scared to death and it's almost goddamn impossible to stay awake. You don't even want us to go ashore and find something to eat beside fish? I'm fucking tired of eating fish. Are you fucking made of iron? When are you going to start rusting?
Ivy looked at the other 4.
I vote we go ashore, find literally anything we can hunt, cook it, have a hot meal, and stay here for at least a day or 2. We haven't stopped for more than a few hours since Canada.
The Marines looked at Ivy and then to me. Doc stood by my side and said nothing. Am I outnumbered?
Yeah, buddy, you are.
All right, but you fuckers better promise me that if we see one thing that's fucked up, we're getting the hell out of here. They agreed, hopped off the boat, and walked up the dock. Doc stayed with me by the yacht. Before noon came around, the skies darkened again. A furious wind crashed waves onto the boat, dock, and shore. The trees on the island swung with a violent rage. Water poured from the sky, laying a sheet of rain in front of us so thick that the end of the boat couldn't be seen.
You think they're all right out there?
Doc asked as we sat inside the hull. We were dry and protected from the full brunt of the wind and rain, but the boat rocked.
Doc, does it matter? They're all gonna fucking die anyway.
Don't say shit like that, man.
Am I fucking wrong?
No, but that doesn't mean you have to say it out loud.
What's the fucking point of any of this?
Going home?
No, what's the fucking point of anything? We've miraculously recovered from every level of fucking injury. We haven't aged in a decade and the goddamn planet is destroyed. We're immortals in a dead world.
Well, you're not wrong.
The storm lasted until the next morning. At midday, the other 4 came back carrying a hunk of meat on poles. I hopped up on the dock.
What's that?
About a quarter of a cow.
I didn't think this place would be big enough to have that here.
Neither did I. But there's an abandoned resort on the other side of the island. It looks like they skipped town and left the animals to fend for themselves.
Correa looked over his shoulder.
Let's put it down on the pallet.
They dropped the beef, broke up some wood, started a fire, and situated the poles over the flame to cook. No one looked happy, only a bit pleased with hot food. They intentionally overcooked the beef that they didn't eat into jerky and packed it into the yacht. When they were content, we sailed north again, skirting up the coast towards Mexico. We sailed into the Gulf of California. Our reasoning was that the waters would be calmer than it would be out in the open Pacific. We were a day past the southern tip of Baja. Our spirits were high. Although once we hit the beach, there would be a lot of walking to do, we were close enough to home to be able to smell it. We were joyous for only having a few more days at sea. Then, the sky suddenly darkened, and the waves rose and the wind howled.
This ain't fucking good.
Correa fought against the helm to keep the ship steady.
Hey, don't fight it, man. Just keep the top side up.
I'm fucking trying.
More waves crashed into the hull, pushing us far to the side. The wind blew so strong that we couldn't stand up without latching ourselves to something. I was holding onto the railing. Water and wind spat in my face. We were being pushed against our will against the current. I looked to the mast. The sails were about to be ripped off. Then I realized that if we pulled down the sails, we could probably just ride out the storm.
Pull down the sails!
I yelled across the deck. Fowler and Williams ran to the mast and started untying the lines. As soon as they pulled the sails down the first inch, the wind broke the mast. It came crashing down to the deck, impacting the helm. It cracked Correa's head in half and threw him into the ocean.
Fuck, goddamn!
Before he could finish swearing, a bolt of lightning, as if sent by an angry god, struck the deck and flung our little ship into a million little splinters. Wood, plastic, metal, and bodies were thrown into the sea. I fell in, back first. My mind didn't want to process or believe what happened. Everything around me was black. I couldn't figure out which way the surface was. I didn't want to accidentally swim in the wrong direction and go deeper. Another streak of lightning crashed across the sky. I swam toward its glow. I hit the surface and gasped for air. Pieces of the ship rode the crashing waves. I looked for anything that would support my body weight to hold on to. Most of what was out there was bits of wood or styrofoam. I saw the mast, but I didn't know how well that would do keeping me up. It was the largest thing I could see, so I decided to go for it. I wrapped my arms around it and held on for life. Every few moments, our packs rose to the surface. They must have made their way outside whatever hole in the ship they were in. I swam over and grabbed my Alice pack and a bit of floating net. I used the net to tie the pack to the mast and held for as long as I could. I drifted through the night, constantly cursing the storm. I don't know how long I was on the sea like that. Days, at least. I didn't know how I felt. I didn't know if it was anger because we got so close to home and failed, or if it was sorrow for having to go through all that much of everything just to end up alone on the ocean. I didn't know if it was fear because I had no idea what I would do next. I tried to keep my mind blank. I was stuck with no way to do anything and nowhere to go and nothing to do. My own mind was my worst enemy when that level of boredom dominated me.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to another chapter of the Paragon of Man Smoke Fairy Tales Part 3. Alright, who's in this episode? Got Chuck LaVoki playing Doc, Eric Pickle playing Fowler, Minot Black playing Rhodas, Matt Kupcikevicious playing Correa, and Jon Q Haskell playing Ivy. So that's the cast. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in, and I'd like to give a special thanks to everyone who's following over on Patreon, helping this work out just a little bit better every week, month, day, year, book, whatever we're doing. I'd also like to thank everyone who's gotten a war chest. Here's the list of all of them in the war chest. You know what the war chest is. You've seen more than one of these videos. I put a pin on the map. The map? Where's the map? Where's my finger? I put a pin on the map for every one that goes out. I should probably do like a little fucking bookmaking thing video. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a little montage while I'm talking. I'll put that over here. Or maybe in the credits. I don't know where the fuck I'm gonna put it. Should probably stop chewing and recording at the same time. Fuck it. Sorry if I'm the dumper a little bit. I had a good weekend, I guess. I hope you had a good weekend. It's Monday when I'm making this. I should probably make these a little bit aheads more so than I do, but it is what it is. Anyway, I think over on Patreon, because I put these on Patreon as I get done with them, we're fucking, I don't know, 5, maybe 6 chapters into book 4, which will be live over here on YouTube in, I don't know, August or September or some shit. So there's that. Oh, I took screenshots of fucking comments I was gonna talk about. That's what we're doing. If my computer wants to work, desktop bitch. That's not at all what I'm, oh. Anyway, over on Patreon, for this chapter specifically, Caleb Sexton says, first half, yay, world building, second half, god damn it. Welcome to Smoke Pit Fairy Tales, let me be your guide. Yeah, this series is full of ups and downs. And it's going to be like that for a while. I mean, hell, we're only like, what, about halfway through the 3rd book? And this is the shortest book. And there's 12 of these fuckers. So there's that. Dom the Builder, your uploads are always the highlight of my week. I'm glad that I can be of service to you, Dom. Thank you very much for tuning in. It makes me happy reading that kind of thing. Warsmith, hey Trip, good chapter-sode. I suggest you keep the word as you've kind of coined it, and you always argue on what to call these things. Chainsaw Man is fun and wacky. Yes, Chainsaw Man is, I finished it between that last video and this one. Chainsaw Man was better than it had any business being. But also, yeah, I'm going to call these chapter-sodes. Warsmith, they are now chapter-sodes. It's not an episode, it's not a chapter. It's a chapter-sode.
Man. Murowski, I can't wait to see the rest of this being binge listed. Listening, I need to learn how to fucking read. Can't wait to see the rest of this binge listening to this book series. Y'all are in this precarious position where, like, on one hand, this isn't all out yet, so you get to ride it with me. You get to be part of the experience as it comes out. But there will be other people later that won't fucking find it until way after it's done, and they'll get to listen to it all at once. They don't have to wait for anything. They'll just be there, ready, waiting for them. But they won't have been there in the grit and in the hard times when, you know, I'm feeling down or behind schedule or something. And you guys get to, like, be there and, like, hey, what's going to happen next? We don't know. There's no way of looking into the future besides just buying the fucking books and reading them. Like, you're in these rocky, uncertain times with me. And I think about the future and where this series is going to go. And I, honest to God, see myself saying goodbye and thank you to everybody when I finally do the last chapter of the last book, and I'll have been in the exact same fucking position I was when I started out, except for maybe with a few more followers on YouTube. Like, I think we're at, like, what, 660, 70 of them at this point? That's the furnace that just turned on, so I'm gonna go so I don't have to, like, pollute your ears through it. But yeah, no, I am 100% confident that by the time we get done with the 12th book, I'll have at least 1,000 followers on YouTube. That'd be great. All right. Hope you guys are doing well. Memorial Day is this weekend, so, you know, do something fun for that. You know, make sure you have a good time. I'm gonna have a couple people over. We're gonna drink beer and cook some stuff. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. All right. Well, here are your bloopers. Have a good one. I'll catch you around. Thanks for tuning in again. You are the reason that I'm doing this. All fucking 12 of you that watch these. All right. You have a good day. Bye. Panama. Dun, dun. When we got to the canals, we No, anything. What's the fucking point of anything? We've miraculously recovered from every level of
Chapter 8.
Why'd you give me the character with all the fucking monologues?
All right, here we go. Testing for Chapter 8, Panama.
The other Marines agree with Ivory. Go me, go Canada.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Testing. Test!
Although, again, Canada's cold right now. I'm currently looking out my window at a snowstorm for the third day in a row.
I'm pretty sure the canal is only 50 miles. Why don't we load up what we can on smaller boats and row across the lake and stay at the... Why don't we load up the... God fucking damn it. Why don't we load up what we can on smaller boats and crow... Not fucking... God damn it.
And that's that.
Why don't we load up what we can on smaller boats and row across the lake and stay the night on the island until we can get to the other side, and then do that to something we could find on the other end? That seems like the way to... God fucking damn it.
Didn't even have the courtesy to mess up any lines too terribly and get some good bloopers for the gag reel. But that's fine. I'm sure I'll get plenty of that with my next character. Moving on.
Oh, hey, look, that's the end of it. Well, Hank, I hope you're Trip, I hope you're happy. I hope you're happy now.
All right, let me know how those work.
I was just throwing a few more lines in there to experiment with echo. For some reason, I'm getting a little more echo than I'm used to hearing. Maybe it's always been there and I'm just noticing it. You know, skill improves, perception improves, skill improves, vicious cycle.